Okay, before we start into the video, let's address the elephant in the room, the lips. This is the V Cosmetics Magic Drip, I think, gloss in the shade Nightshade. Just kidding, I know that there is another elephant in the room. I'm not blind. Oh, sorry, this was the worst joke ever. The eyes. These are colored contacts by the brand Hanix. They contacted me a while ago if I would fancy to try them, and of course, fuck yeah. And they sent me over 3 different pairs of colored contacts that I were able to choose. One is barely visible. This is the color Hydrocore or Hydrocore Graphite. This turns my eyes into a light blue. In this eye, I have the shade Iceland Black, and in this eye, I have the shade Viola Red. Honestly, I have ideas with these lenses you cannot imagine, and I think it's obvious that with the red ones, I do a Twilight look. Very soon. I'm super excited. This is not the topic of the video, but just very shameless ad basically. They sent me these in exchange for a review. That review I think is already up. I just filmed it, not sure if I edited it, but edited it. But if you want to try these colored contacts, you can save 25% with my code EllaKinkley. The link, the code, and stuff is in the description box. They have natural colors, but also they do have also cosplay lenses and these fully white outs and stuff, and I love them. And I thought, I have them in, I don't want to pull them out because with the first pair, of course, my eyes started to water as shit. So I had to reapply the makeup over here. But the topic of this video is actually this palette. So this is not out yet. The Natasha Denona Golden Palette. This was, again, a leak. Haha, a leak. Come on. We're not done at this point, Natasha. We love you and your products, but we don't like your marketing strategy. We don't pull up our trouser with a crane. Do you have that saying in English? Because in Germany it's, wir ziehen uns die Hose nicht mit dem Kran an. Literally, we do not pull up trouser with a crane. We're not dumb. This is not a accidental leak. You do this to hype up the people, and the thing just is, it works every single time. Not with me this time. The Golden Palette is just a color story that is not really interesting to me. The OG Gold Palette, though, that would be a purchase I might do if it was still available, but not for the gold so much, more so because of the mix with the teals. And I said it already in my You Don't Need That Shit video this week that I'm pretty sure that aside from that golden palette now, we will have another midi palette that has these teals in it. But I thought for today's video, maybe you don't want to buy that too. So I try to now dupe this color story just based on that one photo we have. I know that there are already creators who really investigated that, and they found out how many double shades you have in the OG Gold one. I think it's 9, but I try to build a color story just according to this picture. So maybe this is inspiring to you to not buy the palette. I also try to stay in the Natasha Denona line and in general more into a mainstream palette line, and I try not to go so much into indie brands. So what I did now, I just grabbed some like mainstream palettes. I have all of my Natasha Denona. Do I have only 4 Natasha Denona ones at this point? Yes, the bronze is in my chopping block pile, but I don't think that I will need the bronze. Then I grabbed the ABH ones that I have, 2 Makeup by Mario ones, and I also pulled in the Beauty Bay Neutral palette, so maybe I need something else, we will see, but I'm pretty sure that I can dupe this kind of here. By the way, all the lens is distracting. I love the look. I honestly fucking love that. So I just put up a tiny picture of the palette up here so that you can follow my steps and you kind of know where we are. So the first color that we have here is Miko, and that just looks like a very basic beigey bone color. And I think you have colors like this in every single palette. So I do just grab the shade MN1 from the Makeup by Mario Master Mattes, the neutrals, and I think this is so basic. You cannot even see this on my skin, but honestly, I appreciate colors like this because I feel they do serve a certain purpose for softening, for setting maybe a primer, just to buff out things. Next up we have the shade Nubia, and for a moment I thought I have seen this in the Yucca palette, but I don't have the Yucca anymore. So the closest I think I have is the shade Muse in the I Need a Nude one. So here you have Muse. Then we have the shade Para. With this one, according to the picture, I'm not really sure if this has maybe a slight shimmer throughout or if this is a matte too, but I think it's matte. And this looks just like a warmer bone tone transition color, something that I barely touch. I would much rather touch that first color than I would do the third, but I think with the Makeup by Mario, the EE3 is very, very close to this. Matte, warm, neutral, nothing super special. So let's put this down there. Then we have the shade Aria. Now we're getting really into good transition colors. And when I saw the shade, I had to hold up my phone next to them. But to me, this looks a lot like the shade Cookie from the Beauty Bay Neutral palette. So let's just put this down there. Pretty color story so far. And the fifth shade in the first row is the shade Fizzy, and this, just from that picture, I'm pretty sure is one of those new very, very thin, beautiful shimmers like you have in Delilah, Sheen, Whisper, and Mia from the I Need a Nude palette. So this one now looks like a very nice whitish gold. It's not so much a true gold, so could it be anywhere near here? I'm literally holding up my phone against these palettes that I have here to see if some of them looks like this. Actually, I think EE11 could be very, very close to Fizzy. EE11 has kind of a pinkish thing to it, wherever that pink comes from, but it is there. I see it sparkling, but I think it's also a good first row now that we have. Next up we have Varus. That seems to be a neutral dark brown shimmer, and I thought the shade Jazzy from the Retro Glam palette looked quite fitting for this. The next shade is Aura, and I am not sure if Aura is truly just a white eyeshadow or if this has kind of a sheen to it. As of now, I'm actually assuming that this is a white with a shimmer. So I take the shade Ice here from the Beauty Bay Neutral palette, and here we have now the next one. Next up we have the shade Teak, an ultra warm looking brown, and I think the shade Pecan, how do you pronounce that in English, might match this warmth. So here we have the next one. Next up we have the shade Kava or Kara. I think it's Kava, and Kava was already in the OG gold palette, and that was a shade that was quite sheer but golden reflective. So I think that picture is a bit fooling us. If it is like that, I just hope that we have more of an impact. So I take a Pat McGrath palette this time, and I thought maybe, but no. Okay, let me just grab another one. I think this one is it. I just switched to the Mothership 11, and I think this shade here, this is Astral Gold Lust. This might be very, very similar to that Kava shade. Because when I saw swatches of the OG palette, I just remember Kara was, I think, one of the top ones that most people swatched. And it was very translucent, but super shimmery, which this one also is. So next up we have Sandshore, a very, very, very basic matte. So I'm pulling in what's it called? MN4 from the Makeup by Mario Master Mattes Neutral. Very, very simple one. Next up we have the shade Aurum, whatever. I know that this is also in the OG gold one, and that looks like true gold. So again, the picture is a bit fooling, so I pull in the Pat McGrath Mothership 4 and I just go for the purest plain gold that I own, and this is the shade Gold Standard. Like that. Oh, this is pretty. Confession time. I haven't touched my Motherships in a long, long time. Now we have Log, a super duper dark brown, and I think the shade Silhouette from I Need a Nude might be a bit too neutral, because I feel like Log is going to have some very, very warm undertones, but this is just the one that I have right now. Then we have Aura or Oro, and this looks like a shifty shadow. This, I'm pretty sure, shifts from gold to some reddish shades, and I thought actually of ABH Cosmos. My Cosmos palette is ripped. When did that happen? But the shade that I thought of is the shade Sun. This seems to be very, very similar to that. Then we have the shade Flesh, which by the way is not a cool name for an eyeshadow. And this is more of a rosy pink matte. So I don't know. Nah. Fair or Mesh could it be? So I go with Mesh from the I Need a Nude. Mesh might be a bit too cool toned. I think that one in the golden one is much more warm toned. And the last one is Alchemist, and that looks like a brown with golden specks throughout. Could be EE8 from Makeup by Mario. That one could be a nice match. Yeah, this is also slightly warm. But yeah. Honestly, I, in between these swatches, checked swatches of the OG Gold palette, and shades like Oro or Alchemist or which one, Kava or so, look very different swatched to what they are named here in the pan. So either these pictures are very misleading or they maybe reformulated it, but once again, I will not buy the Natasha Denona Golden Palette. This is just my take on the golden dupe. Maybe I'm completely wrong. Maybe I am right. You can please leave your suggestions on what shades you would have added more. Is this a color story now swatched out that you would wear? Let's be honest. Because when I look at this, honestly, I wouldn't. Could be because this duping thing here is complete shit and I'm embarrassing myself now, but this is really just based on the pan. Like, what does it look here in the pan? What am I expecting from this? And just from swatching it out from what I'm expecting actually from this palette, honestly, this is so not my style. Way too warm, way too hot for everything. I see, for example, my friend Danielle from Fedora Beauty, how she will rock a color story like this. I completely see it. I think she will look like a bronzed up, glowing goddess. Not that she isn't already, but with the Natasha Denona Golden Palette, much more than before. But for me, I myself, definitely not. So what do you think? Is this a color story that you like? Did I maybe fail it completely? Please make sure you subscribe to my channel, ring the bell, comment shit, and if you don't know what to comment Natasha Denona, that helps too. Thank you for watching, and I, as per usual, just hope that I can see you also in the next one.